Preston kicked my car in front of everyone and said, "Deadbeat dad creates deadbeat son. It's genetics." When I tried to stand up for myself, he FaceTimed his father in class and said, "Just showing you what happens without a father figure." I stayed silent. That was 8 months ago. This morning, he was sitting alone in his dad's pickup truck, too embarrassed to look at anyone. At the end of 11th grade, me and my family moved so we could be closer to the restaurant empire he owned. I wanted my first day of senior year to be a fresh start. No more fake friends who hung around for yacht parties. So I drove to school in a dented 2005 Honda, wearing clothes from Goodwill. I parked between a modded BMW and a Charger. The BMW belonged to Preston, who I recognized from Instagram. Madison sat in his passenger seat, and they both stared at my car like it personally offended them. "Yo, did you steal that from the junkyard?" Preston called out as I got out. Madison laughed beside him. "It's vintage, like poverty vintage." A small crowd started gathering and my chest tightened. First day of school, and I was already the entertainment. Preston walked over and kicked my bumper hard enough to leave a scuff mark. The casualness of it made my jaw clench. He stuck gum on my door handle while Madison wrote, "For sale, $50" on tissue paper and tucked it under my wiper. The crowd ate it up. I tried to laugh along and introduce myself as the new student. They barely acknowledged me and kept roasting the car. The irony that I could buy 10 of his BMWs didn't make it sting less. Walking to class, Preston stood next to me and made sure everyone noticed our height difference. "Malnutrition really stunts growth, huh?" He ruffled my hair like I was a toddler and started talking to me in a baby voice. "Does the baby need help finding his quasses? Should we get you a whittle booster seat?" Madison took photos comparing our heights for her story, adding stickers of baby bottles and pacifiers around my head. She showed me the post before uploading it. When we finally got to the homeroom, I tried to sit in the back and hope they'd leave me the F alone. Unfortunately, my wishes went unanswered because that's when someone mentioned homecoming plans. "LOL, who would date him?" Madison shouted. Preston pointed to the parking lot visible from the window. "The car alone is birth control." The laughter that followed felt like needles. Even the substitute teacher, who was paying more attention to her Instagram reels than the class, was smiling. Madison showed me her phone with guys from her DMs. All looked like catalog models. She looked at me with pity. "Maybe you could try the anime convention? There'll be girls with lower standards. Perfect for you." The message was clear. This is what girls actually want, and you're not even in the same universe. Then Madison noticed my brown bag lunch. "Aw, did your single mommy pack that?" The assumption made my stomach turn. Both my parents were very much together. "Let me guess, Dad left while getting the milk?" She opened my bag without asking and held up my sandwich like evidence. White bread and peanut butter, not even a name brand. She then reached into her pocket and dropped actual coins on my desk for groceries. Preston slid over a cafeteria-free lunch application. I bit my tongue hard enough to taste copper. Madison started fixing my collar and took photos of my sandwich for her story with crying laugh emojis. "This is so sad. Should we start a meal fund too?" That's when our substitute teacher slowly stood up and mumbled about a group project assignment on family businesses. Preston's eyes lit up with pure malice. "Oh, perfect topic for you. Oh wait, what's your dad do?" Madison asked with fake innocence. "Oh right, he doesn't." I glanced at the ceiling, trying my best not to lose my cool, and that's when I heard a phone ringing. I glanced over at Preston and saw him FaceTiming his dad during class. "Hey dad, just showing you what happened without a father figure." He turned the phone toward me like I was an exhibit. His dad's confused voice came through the speaker asking what he meant. "Nothing, Dad. Just grateful you didn't abandon us like some people's dads." He made sure the whole class heard before hanging up. Madison pulled up statistics on her phone about fatherless homes and poverty rates, reading them out loud while staring at me. Preston delivered the final blow. "Deadbeat dad creates deadbeat son. It's genetics." The words hit like a physical punch. My dad was the hardest working person I knew, built everything from nothing, and here were these trust fund kids calling him deadbeat. As soon as school ended, I practically ran to the parking lot, and sure enough, my crusty Honda wouldn't even start. Preston and Madison rushed outside with their phones, ready to film my humiliation. "Need a jump?" Preston mocked. "Or a tow truck?" Madison added. Well, I had had enough. I shoved past them and made my way to the bathroom while I waited for my dad to come pick me up. When I came back out, a matte black Bugatti Chiron was parked outside. Preston and Madison were standing by it starstruck. That's when my dad stepped out and saw me. "Son, have you met these lovely classmates of yours? They were just telling me about your group project." Madison's face went white. Preston's knees buckled. "Bro, we didn't mean..." My dad's eyes shifted between me and them, his expression unreadable. Preston's mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water, while Madison clutched her phone so tight, her knuckles went white. The silence stretched for what felt like hours. Students started pouring out of the building, and within seconds, a crowd formed around the Bugatti. Phones came out everywhere, but this time they weren't pointed at my Honda. My dad walked over to me, placing a hand on my shoulder. His grip was firm, but gentle. Preston stumbled backward, nearly tripping over his own feet. Madison's hands shook as she tried to delete something on her phone. The crowd grew larger. Someone whispered about the car being worth millions. Another person Googled the license plate and gasped. My dad noticed the scuff mark on my Honda's bumper and ran his finger over it, then looked at Preston's shoe. Preston's face went from white to red to purple. He started backing toward his BMW, but the crowd had him boxed in. Madison tried to blend into the mass of students, but her bright pink jacket made her stand out like a neon sign. My dad opened the Bugatti's door for me. The interior smelled like Italian leather and success. As I slid in, I caught Preston frantically texting someone, probably trying to figure out who my dad was. Madison had given up on hiding and stood frozen, staring at the car like it might disappear if she blinked. The engine purred to life, and the crowd parted like the Red Sea. Through the rearview mirror, I watched Preston kick his own car's tire in frustration. Madison dropped her phone, and it shattered on the asphalt. At home, my dad didn't lecture me. He just asked if I wanted to talk about it. I shook my head and went to my room. My phone buzzed non-stop with friend requests and messages from classmates who suddenly remembered my name. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Preston's face when he realized who my dad was. Part of me felt satisfied, but another part knew this wasn't over. People like Preston and Madison didn't just accept defeat. The next morning, I checked social media. Madison's story from yesterday was gone, but screenshots were already circulating. Someone had made a meme comparing Preston's BMW to my dad's Bugatti with the caption, "When you think you're rich, but you're really just upper middle class." I drove the Honda to school again. This time, when I pulled into the parking lot, people moved out of the way. Some waved, others just stared. Preston's BMW was already there, parked in a different spot than usual. Walking through the hallway felt different. Conversations stopped when I passed. Some people smiled at me, others whispered behind their hands. I kept my head down and headed to my locker. A folded piece of paper was taped to it. Inside, someone had written, "We know the truth about your dad's money," in block letters. My stomach dropped. I crumpled it up and shoved it in my pocket. In homeroom, Preston and Madison sat in the front row instead of their usual spots in the back. They didn't look at me once. The substitute teacher actually taught class this time, no Instagram in sight. During the group project discussion, Preston raised his hand and asked to switch topics. The teacher denied his request. Madison stared at her desk like it held the secrets of the universe. At lunch, I sat alone as usual, but this time people kept glancing at my table. A few brave souls approached to introduce themselves. They asked about my dad's business, how many cars we had, if the rumors about our house were true. I gave vague answers and focused on my peanut butter sandwich. After school, I found Preston and Madison waiting by my Honda. My heart raced, but I kept walking. They stepped aside without a word. As I unlocked the door, Preston cleared his throat. I turned around. His face was twisted with barely contained rage. Madison stood behind him, her arms crossed. They wanted to say something, I could tell, but the small crowd of onlookers kept them in check. The Honda started on the first try this time. As I pulled out, I saw them in my rearview mirror, still standing there, plotting. This was far from over. At home, my dad was in his study, going through paperwork. He looked up when I knocked. I told him about the note, about Preston and Madison's behavior, about the weird energy at school. He listened without interrupting. When I finished, he leaned back in his chair. He explained that people often react poorly when their assumptions are challenged. He built his business facing similar attitudes. The key was to stay focused on what mattered. That night, I researched Preston's family. His dad owned a small chain of sporting goods stores. Successful, but nothing compared to my dad's empire. Madison's family ran a local real estate agency. Comfortable, but not wealthy. Their attacks made more sense now. What makes them assume someone's dad left just because of an old car? I'm really curious about the psychology behind jumping to such specific conclusions about someone's whole family situation based on their choice of vehicle. Seems like they're projecting something deeper than just money stuff here. They'd built their identities around being the rich kids, the ones others envied. My appearance threatened that. The next few days followed a pattern. Hostile stares in the morning, awkward interactions during class, and tense encounters in the parking lot. Preston and Madison hadn't given up. They were just being more careful. Then came Thursday. I arrived at school to find my locker covered in printed screenshots of foreclosure notices, all with my last name photoshopped onto them. A small crowd had gathered to see my reaction. I started peeling them off one by one. Each fake document was more elaborate than the last. Someone had put serious effort into this. Madison appeared at the edge of the crowd, phone ready to capture my humiliation, but I didn't give her the reaction she wanted. I carefully folded each paper and put them in my backpack. Evidence. The crowd dispersed, disappointed by the lack of drama. In chemistry class, Preston accidentally knocked over a beaker of harmless but foul-smelling solution near my desk. The teacher made him clean it up, but the smell lingered. Madison documented the whole thing, careful to crop out Preston's involvement. During gym, someone had filled my locker with Monopoly money. The fake bills fluttered to the floor when I opened it. Preston happened to walk by at that exact moment, acting surprised. Madison was already uploading the video. After school, I sat in my car for a long time, thinking. They were escalating, getting bolder. The initial shock of the Bugatti reveal was wearing off. They needed to reassert their dominance. My phone buzzed. An unknown number had sent a link to a new Instagram account. Rich kid exposed. The bio read, exposing fake wealth, one trust fund baby at a time. The first post was a blurry photo of my dad's Bugatti, with a caption claiming it was rented. More posts followed throughout the evening. Theories about my dad's business being a front. Claims that we were in debt. Accusations of money laundering. Each post was carefully worded to avoid outright libel, but designed to plant doubt. My dad noticed my mood at dinner. I showed him the account. He scrolled through it calmly, occasionally raising an eyebrow. When he finished, he handed my phone back and continued eating. After dinner, he made some calls in his study. I could hear him speaking in low tones, occasionally mentioning lawyers and defamation, but he also talked about patience, about letting people reveal their true character. Friday morning came too quickly. The Instagram account had gained hundreds of followers overnight, mostly from our school. Comments poured in, some defending me, others piling on. In the parking lot, Preston had upgraded his harassment. A group of his friends surrounded my Honda, not touching it, but making it clear I wasn't welcome. Madison filmed from a distance, ready to edit out any context. I pushed through them without engaging. They wanted a reaction, a confrontation they could spin in their favor. Inside school, whispers followed me everywhere. Some people seemed to believe the rumors, others were skeptical. During English class, we had to peer review essays. Preston got assigned as my partner. He spent the entire time making snide comments about whether I'd plagiarized my work, if my dad had paid someone to write it, how money couldn't buy intelligence. Madison, sitting nearby, typed furiously on her phone. Within minutes, a new post appeared on Rich Kid Exposed, featuring out-of-context quotes from Preston about my essay. The narrative was building. Not only was I fake rich, I was also a cheater. At lunch, I overheard two freshmen debating whether the rumors were true. One insisted no one with real money would drive a hit-up Honda. The other argued it might be a weird rich person thing. Neither considered that maybe I just wanted to be treated normally. The afternoon brought new challenges. Someone had printed business cards with my dad's company logo and the words Fraud Investigation Hotline with a fake number. They were scattered throughout the school like confetti. Preston made sure to pick one up in front of a teacher, expressing concern about what he'd found. The teacher, not knowing any better, asked if I knew anything about it. I had to explain it was a prank, while Preston smirked behind her back. By the end of the day, I was exhausted. The constant vigilance, the need to stay calm while being attacked from all angles, it was draining. As I walked to my car, I noticed Madison talking animatedly with a group of girls, her phone out as always. The Honda had a new addition, a for sale by owner, desperate for cash, sign tucked under the windshield wiper. The same tissue paper from the first day, but the message had evolved. I removed it and added it to my growing collection. Driving home, I thought about my dad's advice to let people reveal their character. Preston and Madison were certainly doing that, but at what cost to my reputation? How long could I endure this before fighting back? The weekend offered no respite. Rich Kid Exposed posted constantly, each update more creative than the last. Fake testimonials from supposed former employees, photoshopped financial documents, even a poorly edited video claiming to show my dad's car being repossessed. I spent Saturday helping at one of my dad's restaurants. The staff knew me well, had watched me grow up buzzing tables and washing dishes during summers. Their warmth reminded me that Preston and Madison's version of reality wasn't the only one that mattered. Sunday night, I made a decision. I wouldn't stoop to their level, but I wouldn't be passive either. If they wanted to play games, I'd play smarter. The real question was how to expose their behavior without becoming like them. Monday arrived with new challenges. The Rich Kid Exposed account had posted a documentary video over the weekend, complete with ominous music and selective editing. It had thousands of views. In the parking lot, I noticed something different. A few students nodded at me with what looked like sympathy. Maybe the smear campaign was starting to backfire. People were beginning to see through the obvious manipulation. Inside school, I found an unexpected ally. Amanda Foster, editor of the school newspaper, newspaper, approached me during break. She'd been investigating the Instagram account and found some interesting patterns in the posting times and writing style. We talked briefly before Preston appeared, trying to eavesdrop. Amanda gave him a cold stare and continued our conversation, making it clear she wasn't buying his narrative. It was a small victory, but it felt significant. The week progressed with more of the same. Pranks, rumors, social media attacks, but cracks were starting to show in Preston and Madison's united front. They argued in the hallway about their next move, each blaming the other when their schemes didn't get the desired reaction. By Wednesday, even some of their friends seemed uncomfortable with the escalating harassment. When Madison tried to rally people to participate in her latest plan, several made excuses and walked away. Thursday brought an unexpected development. The school administration finally took notice of the situation, not because of the harassment itself, but because parents had started complaining about the disruptive Instagram account and its effect on the school's reputation. An assembly was called about cyberbullying and social media responsibility. No names were mentioned, but Preston and Madison sat rigid in their seats while the principal discussed potential consequences for online harassment. After the assembly, the atmosphere shifted. Teachers paid more attention to interactions in their classrooms. The Rich Kid Exposed account went silent. Preston and Madison still glared at me, but their public attacks decreased. That afternoon, I found a different note on my locker. This one wasn't threatening. Amanda had left her contact information and a message. The truth always comes out. Let me know if you want to tell your side. I tucked the note away, considering my options. The immediate storm seemed to be passing, but I knew Preston and Madison wouldn't give up so easily. They'd regroup, plan something bigger. Friday ended with an uneasy truce. Preston and Madison kept their distance, but their eyes promised this wasn't over. Other students seemed to be choosing sides, though many just wanted the drama to end. As I drove home in my trusty Honda, I reflected on the week. The revelation about my family's wealth had changed everything and nothing. I was still the same person, but now I existed in a different social context. My dad was waiting when I got home. He'd heard about the assembly from someone at the school board. We talked about the situation, about how to move forward. He reminded me that character is revealed not in easy times, but in difficult ones. That weekend, I made a choice. Instead of hiding or retaliating, I'd continue being myself. Let Preston and Madison exhaust themselves with their schemes. Eventually, their true nature would be their own downfall. The story was far from over. Preston and Madison would surely escalate again, but now I understood the game better. They needed me to react, to give them ammunition. My power lay in refusing to play by their rules. As I prepared for another week, I felt oddly optimistic. Yes, challenges lay ahead. Yes, Preston and Madison would continue their campaign, but I had something they didn't. The confidence that comes from knowing who you really are. The battle for social dominance would continue, but I was ready for whatever came next. Monday morning brought an unexpected twist. My dad's business partner's son, Sebastian, transferred to our school. He pulled up in a Tesla Model S, parking right next to Preston's BMW. The entire parking lot watched as he stepped out, designer everything, looking like he'd walked off a magazine cover. Preston's fake foreclosure notices took more work than his actual homework probably ever has. Talk about using your creative energy in all the wrong places, while Madison films everything like she's making a low-budget revenge documentary. Preston and Madison immediately gravitated toward him during first period. I watched them work their charm, trying to recruit him into their social circle. Sebastian played along, nodding and smiling at all the right moments. They showed him around, introduced him to their friends, made sure everyone knew he was with them now. During lunch, Sebastian sat at their table. Madison hung on his every word while Preston tried to establish dominance through aggressive friendliness. They pointed me out across the cafeteria, and I caught fragments of their conversation through the general noise. Preston was explaining the social hierarchy, making sure Sebastian knew who mattered and who didn't. The next morning, I found my locker spray-painted with the word fraud in bright red letters. The janitor was already there with cleaning supplies, shaking his head. Security footage would mysteriously malfunction, I was sure. Madison documented my reaction from across the hallway, while Preston high-fived his friends. In chemistry, someone had replaced my lab notebook with a fake one filled with nonsense equations and doodles. The teacher frowned when I tried to explain, marking me down for being unprepared. Preston volunteered to share his notes, playing the helpful classmate while smirking behind the teacher's back. Sebastian started showing up everywhere I went. He'd appear in the library when I studied, sit near me in the cafeteria, hover around my locker between classes. Always watching, always reporting back to Preston and Madison. They were building something bigger. I could feel it. Wednesday's attack came through the school email system. Someone had sent a message to the entire senior class from a spoofed address that looked like mine, claiming my family's wealth came from exploiting workers and destroying small businesses. The email included fabricated stories about my dad's supposed victims, complete with fake testimonials. The school's IT department traced it back to a computer in the library, but the login was generic. Preston made a show of defending me to anyone who'd listen, saying he couldn't believe someone would spread such horrible lies. His performance was Oscar-worthy. Amanda Foster pulled me aside after English class. She'd been digging deeper into the harassment campaign and discovered something interesting. The Rich Kid Exposed account had slipped up, posting during a time when only a few students were in a specific classroom. She'd narrowed down the possible culprits. That afternoon, my Honda wouldn't start again. This time, someone had disconnected the battery cables. As I popped the hood to fix it, Preston's friends circled around, taking photos and videos. They made sure to capture me getting my hands dirty, adding captions about how I couldn't afford a mechanic. Sebastian approached while I worked on the car. He leaned against the hood, blocking my light, and started asking questions about my family's business. His tone was friendly, but his eyes were cold. He mentioned his father's connections, how they knew people who could verify or debunk claims about any company. Thursday morning, the harassment took a darker turn. Photos of my family's home had been posted on Rich Kid Exposed, along with our address and a caption suggesting people should see the fraud's mansion for themselves. My dad had to hire security after cars started slowly driving past our house. At school, Preston organized a mock charity drive for underprivileged students. He made sure to approach me in front of everyone, offering me the collected donations with exaggerated concern. Madison filmed the whole thing, ready to edit it into another humiliation video. The principal called me into her office. Parents had been complaining about the social media accounts and the disruption to the learning environment. She asked if I knew who was behind it. I stayed silent, knowing that without proof, any accusation would just make things worse. Amanda showed me her investigation notes during study hall. She'd mapped out posting patterns, writing styles, and timing coincidences. The evidence pointed clearly to Madison and Preston, but it was all circumstantial. We needed something more concrete. Friday brought a coordinated assault. My textbooks went missing from my locker. My car tires were deflated. Someone had signed me up for dozens of scholarship programs for financially struggling students, and the emails flooded my inbox. Each attack was small enough to seem like a prank, but together formed a pattern of sustained harassment. harassment. Sebastian's role became clearer when he started spreading rumors about seeing financial documents at his house that proved my family was in debt. He claimed his father had inside information about an impending investigation into my dad's business practices. The lies spread through the school like wildfire. During PE, someone had put itching powder in my gym clothes. I discovered it too late, after I'd already changed. The nurse gave me antihistamines and let me rest in her office, but Madison had already posted videos of me scratching and squirming during class. Amanda and I met after school to discuss our options. She wanted to publish an article in the school newspaper about cyberbullying, using the Rich Kid Exposed account as a case study without naming names. It would put pressure on the perpetrators without direct confrontation. The weekend brought a brief respite, but Preston and Madison used the time to plan. The Rich Kid Exposed account posted a series of investigations into my family's business, mixing real information with clever lies. They'd done their homework, making the false claims believable enough to cast doubt. My dad's restaurant started receiving prank calls and fake negative reviews online. Someone was systematically attacking our business reputation. My dad's lawyers got involved, but tracking down anonymous harassers was like playing whack-a-mole. Monday morning, I arrived to find my parking spot occupied by a hit-up truck with a sign reading, "Reserved for charity cases." Preston stood nearby with his friends, waiting for my reaction. I parked elsewhere without comment, denying them the satisfaction. In homeroom, Sebastian announced his family was hosting a charity gala for underprivileged youth. He made a point of saying everyone was invited, then looked directly at me and added that those who actually need charity were especially welcome. The implication was clear. Amanda's article about cyberbullying was published in the school newspaper. Without naming names, she outlined how anonymous accounts were being used to harass students and damage reputations. The administration took notice, announcing a new policy for investigating online harassment. Preston and Madison's response was swift. They started a whisper campaign suggesting Amanda and I were dating, that she was only defending me because we were together. They photoshopped images of us together and spread them through group chats. Amanda faced her own wave of harassment for standing up for me. The principal announced a school-wide assembly about digital citizenship and online responsibility. Preston and Madison sat in the front row, nodding along like model students. They'd covered their tracks well, using VPNs and anonymous accounts. Proving their involvement would be nearly impossible. After the assembly, I found my car covered in sticky notes. Each one had a different insult or accusation written on it. It must have taken hours to prepare. Students gathered to watch me remove them, some taking photos, others looking uncomfortable with the escalating bullying. Sebastian escalated his psychological warfare. He started befriending people I talked to, slowly turning them against me with subtle lies and manipulations. Study partners suddenly became unavailable. Lab partners requested transfers. The social isolation was surgical in its precision. Amanda discovered something important. The metadata from some Rich Kid Exposed posts contained location data. Several posts had been made from Madison's house. It wasn't definitive proof, but it was a start. We began building a timeline, matching posts to Preston and Madison's known whereabouts. Thursday afternoon, someone called in a false tip to the school about me bringing contraband onto campus. Security searched my locker and bag in front of everyone. They found nothing, of course, but the damage was done. The image of me being searched spread through social media within minutes. My dad met with the principal and the school board. He didn't threaten or throw his weight around, just calmly presented the pattern of harassment and asked what the school planned to do about it. The administration promised to investigate, but we both knew their hands were tied without concrete evidence. Preston organized a support group for victims of fake rich kids who pretended to have money. He held meetings in the library, where he and his friends would share obviously fabricated stories about being deceived by wealthy posers. The meetings were really just roasting sessions aimed at me. Amanda and I worked late into the night, correlating data from social media posts, security footage timestamps, and witness accounts. The pattern was clear to us, but we needed something undeniable. Then Amanda had an idea. What if we could catch them in the act? Friday morning, I executed Amanda's plan. I leaked false information to someone I knew would tell Sebastian, claiming my dad was planning to donate a large sum to the school. The donation would be announced Monday morning. If Preston and Madison took the bait, they'd have to act over the weekend. Sure enough, the Rich Kid Exposed account lit up Saturday night with posts about the fake donation and how I was trying to buy my way into popularity. They'd posted screenshots of the supposed donation announcement, which they could only have gotten from Sebastian. How did Amanda figure out the location data was still in those posts? Most people know to turn that off when they're being sneaky, but Madison must have forgotten that one detail. I'm really curious what made Amanda even think to check the metadata in the first place. The trap was working. Amanda documented everything, screenshotting posts within seconds of them going live. She tracked IP addresses, posting times, and writing patterns. The evidence was mounting, but we needed one more piece to make it undeniable. Sunday evening, Preston made a crucial mistake. He posted on his personal Instagram story, forgetting to switch accounts. The post was deleted within seconds, but Amanda had been watching. She captured it, a behind-the-scenes photo of him and Madison creating fake screenshots for Rich Kid Exposed. We now had our smoking GN. The question was, what to do with it? Going to the administration would result in suspensions at most. Preston and Madison's families had influence. They'd spin it as a joke gone too far, promise to do better, and face minimal consequences. Amanda suggested a different approach. Instead of going to the authorities, we'd let Preston and Madison destroy themselves. She'd noticed something interesting in their recent posts. They were getting sloppy, overconfident. Their lies were becoming more elaborate and easier to disprove. Monday morning arrived with palpable tension. Preston and Madison strutted into school, confident they'd preemptively destroyed my fake donation announcement. They didn't know it had all been a trap. Sebastian looked pleased with himself, having no idea he'd been played. During morning announcements, the principal mentioned that the IT department had made progress tracking the cyberbullying accounts. Preston and Madison exchanged glances, but remained confident in their anonymity. They didn't know about Amanda's evidence yet. I went through my classes as normal, giving no indication that anything had changed. Preston continued his subtle harassment, while Madison documented my every move. They were building up to something big, I could tell. Their final attempt to destroy my reputation once and for all. Amanda met with the newspaper team during lunch. She presented her investigation, showing the clear evidence linking Preston and Madison to the harassment campaign. The team agreed to publish a special edition exposing the truth, but Amanda held them back. The timing had to be perfect. After school, Preston and Madison put their final plan into motion. They'd created a fake email from my dad's company announcing layoffs and bankruptcy. The email was sophisticated, using actual company letterhead and employee names. They planned to send it to local news outlets. Sebastian approached me in the parking lot, smirking. He revealed that his father had never been my dad's business partner. He'd lied about everything, hired by Preston's family to help destroy my reputation. confession. The admission was brazen, confident that I was already too damaged to fight back. I recorded the entire conversation on my phone, hidden in my pocket. Sebastian bragged about how easy it had been to fool everyone, how Preston and Madison had paid him to transfer schools just to target me. His arrogance was his downfall, confessing to everything without realizing he was being recorded. That night, Amanda and I compiled everything. The screenshots, the IP traces, the accidental Instagram post, Sebastian's recorded confession. We had enough evidence to bury them, but we waited. Preston and Madison needed to commit fully to their final attack. Tuesday morning, the fake bankruptcy email went live. Preston and Madison had sent it to every major news outlet in the city, the school board, and hundreds of parents. They'd crossed a line from harassment into potential legal territory. Fraud, defamation, and cyberstalking charges were now on the table. My dad's lawyers moved quickly, sending cease and desist letters to the news outlets and preparing a comprehensive case. But I had a different plan. Amanda and I decided it was time to let Preston and Madison face the consequences of their own actions. We posted everything on a new Instagram account. Truth about rich kid exposed. Every piece of evidence, every screenshot, every correlation between Preston and Madison's activities and the harassment posts. Sebastian's confession was the centerpiece. Audio clear as day. The reaction was immediate and explosive. Students who'd believed the lies felt betrayed. Parents demanded answers. The school administration couldn't ignore such comprehensive evidence. Preston and Madison's carefully constructed social hierarchy crumbled within hours. Preston tried damage control, claiming the evidence was fabricated, but Amanda had been meticulous. Every piece of evidence had timestamps, metadata, and corroborating witnesses. Other students came forward with their own stories of Preston and Madison's bullying over the years. Madison's Instagram account hemorrhaged followers. Her carefully curated image as a social media influencer shattered. Brands that had sent her products distanced themselves. Her parents, mortified by the scandal, confiscated her phone and shut down her social media presence. Sebastian disappeared from school, his family pulling him out before he could face consequences. The payment trail between his family and Preston's was discovered, adding another layer to the scandal. His brief stint as a transfer student was exposed as a hired hit job on my reputation. The school board held an emergency meeting. The cyberbullying had escalated to criminal harassment, and they couldn't sweep it under the rug. Preston and Madison faced suspension pending a full investigation. Their college prospects, once bright, now looked uncertain. Amanda's article in the school newspaper detailed the entire saga without sensationalism. She focused on the impact of cyberbullying, the danger of anonymous harassment, and the importance of standing up to bullies. The article won her recognition from journalism programs at several universities. Preston's father, embarrassed by the scandal affecting his business reputation, cut off Preston's access to money and cars. The BMW disappeared from the school parking lot, replaced by a used sedan. The humiliation of losing his status symbols hit Preston harder than any suspension could. Madison's family real estate business suffered as clients questioned their ethics. Several high-profile listings were pulled after the scandal broke. Her mother, a social climber herself, found doors closing in her face at charity events and social gatherings. The Rich Kid Exposed account was shut down by Instagram for violating terms of service. The school implemented new policies requiring students to register their social media accounts if they wanted to participate in school activities. Anonymous harassment would no longer be tolerated. Other victims of Preston and Madison's bullying over the years came forward. Stories emerged of systematic harassment, social manipulation, and cruelty dating back to middle school. The pattern was clear. They'd always punch down, targeting anyone they saw as beneath them. My family's business actually saw an uptick in customers. People who'd heard about the harassment campaign made a point of supporting us. The fake bankruptcy announcement backfired spectacularly, drawing attention to my dad's actual success story and ethical business practices. Amanda and I became closer through the ordeal, not romantically, as Preston and Madison had tried to suggest, but as friends who'd fought together against injustice. She taught me the power of careful documentation and patient investigation over emotional retaliation. The final school weeks passed in relative peace. Preston and Madison completed their suspensions, but returned to a very different social landscape. Their former friends distanced themselves, not wanting to be associated with the scandal. They ate lunch alone, experiencing the isolation they'd inflicted on others. College acceptance letters arrived in spring. Preston and Madison's dream schools rejected them, the scandal having made national news in education circles. They ended up at safety schools, far from each other. Their reign of terror finally over. I got into my top choice university, my essay about overcoming adversity and choosing integrity resonating with admissions committees. Amanda got into a prestigious journalism program. We'd both grown from the experience, learning to stand up for ourselves and others. Graduation day arrived with mixed emotions. Preston and Madison walked across the stage to muted applause, their legacy forever tainted. When my name was called, the cheering was genuine, not because of my family's wealth, but because I'd faced bullies and won by taking the high road. My dad attended the ceremony in a simple suit, driving a regular SUV. No need for the Bugatti. The point had been made. True wealth wasn't about showing off or putting others down. It was about character, resilience, and standing up for what's right. As we prepared for college, I reflected on the senior year that had started with such promise for a fresh start. I'd wanted to avoid fake friends who only cared about money. Instead, I'd found real friends who cared about justice and truth. The harassment had been painful, but it had also revealed who people really were. Preston and Madison learned too late that actions have consequences. Their attempt to destroy my reputation had only destroyed their own. They'd spent so much energy trying to maintain their position at the top of a meaningless hierarchy that they'd forgotten to be decent human beings. The Honda still ran, dents and all. I'd grown attached to it over the year, a symbol of choosing authenticity over appearances. It had taken me through the worst year of my life and emerged still functional, just like me. Some things I'd learned were worth more than their price tag. As summer began, I looked forward to college with genuine optimism. The ordeal with Preston and Madison had taught me valuable lessons about standing up to bullies, the importance of true friends, and the power of patience and evidence over emotional retaliation. Preston posting on his personal account by mistake is peak villain energy. Nothing says criminal mastermind quite like forgetting which Instagram you're logged into while documenting your own crimes. The truth had indeed come out, just as Amanda had predicted. And in the end, that truth had set us all free from the toxic social dynamics that Preston and Madison had created. Their empire of cruelty had fallen, and something better had grown in its place. The evidence Amanda and I posted spread through the school faster than any of their previous attacks. Within hours, the Truth About Rich Kid Exposed account had more followers than the original harassment page ever achieved. Students started sharing their own experiences with Preston and Madison's bullying, creating an avalanche of testimonies. Wednesday morning, Preston arrived at school in his dad's old pickup truck. The BMW was gone. His usual swagger had vanished, replaced by hunched shoulders and downcast eyes. Madison came separately, driven by her mother in a minivan. No more coordinated entrances, no more power couple dynamics. The hallway atmosphere had completely shifted. Students who once feared Preston and Madison now openly discussed their experiences. A sophomore shared how Madison had created a fake dating profile for her. A junior revealed Preston had spread rumors about his family's immigration status. The stories kept coming. During first period, the principal made an announcement about a mandatory parent-teacher conference for all students involved in cyberbullying incidents. Preston's face went pale. Madison stared at her desk, hands trembling. The administration was finally taking real action. Amanda published a follow-up article detailing the psychological impact of sustained harassment. She interviewed students anonymously, painting a picture of how Preston and Madison had created a culture of fear. The school newspaper sold out within minutes. At lunch, Preston sat alone at a corner table. His former friends had abandoned him completely. When he tried to join their table, they picked up their trays and moved. Madison experienced the same treatment. The social hierarchy they'd worked so hard to maintain had collapsed entirely. Sebastian's absence became permanent. Word spread that his family had moved out of state to avoid the scandal. The revelation that he'd been paid to infiltrate the school just to harass me shocked even Preston and Madison's former allies. The depth of their scheme disgusted everyone. Thursday brought the parent-teacher conferences. Preston's father arrived in a suit, looking haggard. Madison's parents came together, their faces tight with embarrassment. Other parents attended too, demanding answers about how such systematic harassment had gone unchecked for so long. The conferences lasted hours. Through the classroom windows, we could see heated discussions, pointing fingers, and Madison's mother wiping away tears. Preston's father left red-faced, dragging Preston behind him. Madison emerged, supported by both parents, unable to meet anyone's eyes. Friday morning, the principal announced new policies. All social media accounts associated with school activities would be monitored. Anonymous harassment would result in immediate suspension. Digital citizenship classes would become mandatory for all students. The changes came too late for me, but might protect future students. Preston and Madison returned from their suspensions to find their lockers had been moved to different hallways. The administration had separated them, recognizing their toxic influence on each other. They passed in the halls like strangers. Their partnership dissolved. The school's atmosphere began healing. Students who'd been afraid to speak up found their voices. Lunch tables became more inclusive. The rigid social hierarchy Preston and Madison had enforced crumbled, replaced by more natural friendships based on genuine connections. Amanda won a state journalism award for her investigation. Colleges took notice, and she received early acceptance letters from several top programs. Her courage in exposing the truth had launched her career before she even graduated. My family's restaurants thrived. The fake bankruptcy email had backfired spectacularly, generating sympathy and support from the community. My dad hired some classmates for part-time work, giving them real opportunities instead of the mockery Preston had offered. Preston's family business struggled. Word of his behavior had spread through social networks, and parents stopped shopping at his father's stores. The family that had hired Sebastian to harass me faced their own social consequences as their role became public knowledge. Madison's college rejection letters arrived one after another. Her dream of becoming a social media influencer died with her reputation. The carefully curated online persona she'd built over years had crumbled in days. Her mother removed all social media apps from Madison's devices. Spring arrived with a sense of renewal. The toxic environment Preston and Madison had cultivated for years had finally been cleansed. Students walked the halls without fear of becoming targets. The bathroom walls no longer bore cruel gossip. Even teachers seemed more relaxed. Prom planning began without Preston and Madison's influence. For the first time in years, the event focused on inclusion rather than exclusion. The committee welcomed everyone's input, creating a dance that celebrated the entire class rather than just the social elite. Preston started seeing the school counselor regularly. Through the office window, I sometimes saw him sitting there, shoulders slumped, finally confronting the person he'd become. Madison underwent similar counseling, though separately. Their reign of terror had ended with them isolated and introspective. The Honda continued serving me well. I'd grown attached to its dents and quirks, a reminder of choosing authenticity over appearances. When underclassmen asked about it, I told them the truth. Real worth isn't measured by what you drive or wear, but by how you treat others. Amanda and I remained close friends, bonded by our shared experience. We studied together, prepared for college, and occasionally discussed the investigation that had changed everything. She taught me the power of patience and documentation over emotional retaliation. As graduation approached, Preston and Madison maintained their isolation. They'd learned too late that power built on cruelty was ultimately hollow. Their former friends had moved on, forming healthier relationships. The fear they'd once inspired had transformed into pity. The school implemented Amanda's suggestions for preventing future harassment. A peer support system was established. Anonymous reporting became easier. Teachers received training on recognizing bullying patterns. The changes came from our experience, but would benefit future generations. College acceptance letters brought joy to many, disappointment to some. Preston ended up at a state school far from home. His dreams of an Ivy League education shattered. Madison's acceptances came from schools she'd once mocked as beneath her. Their futures had been reshaped by their own actions. My acceptance to my dream university felt earned through perseverance rather than privilege. The essay about choosing integrity over retaliation had resonated with admissions committees. Amanda received full scholarships to multiple journalism programs, her investigation portfolio impressing everyone. The final weeks of school passed peacefully. Preston and Madison attended classes, completed assignments, and avoided everyone. They'd experienced the isolation they'd inflicted on others for years. The poetic justice wasn't lost on anyone. Senior awards night arrived. Amanda received recognition for her journalism. I was honored for resilience and character. Preston and Madison sat with their parents, watching others receive accolades they'd once assumed would be theirs. Their names were notably absent from any awards. The last day of classes felt bittersweet. We'd survived a year that had tested everyone. The hallways that had once been battlegrounds now felt like neutral territory. Students signed yearbooks, shared memories, and looked forward to futures unburdened by toxic social hierarchies. Preston approached me after the final bell. He stood there, searching for words, then simply nodded and walked away. It wasn't an apology, but perhaps an acknowledgement. Madison passed by without making eye contact, her designer bags replaced by a simple backpack. Graduation day dawned bright and clear. Families gathered to celebrate achievements and new beginnings. The ceremony proceeded smoothly, each graduate walking across the stage to receive their diploma. The audience's reactions told the story of the year. When Preston's name name was called, polite but muted applause followed. Madison received similar treatment. Their families clapped enthusiastically, but the general response was lukewarm. They'd graduated, but without the glory they'd once craved. Amanda received thunderous applause, recognition for her courage and integrity. When my name was called, the response was warm and genuine. Not because of my family's wealth, but because I'd faced adversity without becoming cruel myself. After the ceremony, Preston and Madison left quickly with their families. No lingering for photos or parties. Their high school experience had ended not with glory, but with a valuable lesson about the price of cruelty. As for me, I'd learned that true wealth isn't measured in luxury cars or designer clothes, but in the character we show when faced with adversity. Well, that's a wrap on this one. Appreciate you hanging out and letting me throw some clever takes your way. Always a blast. Like the video, it helps more than you think.